Critical Role is bound to release their own fantasy tabletop role-playing game, DAGGERHEART, and it seems like their plan is to include more narrative mechanic elements into DAGGERHEART. Prime example of that being the usage of two different looking D12, Hope die and the Fear die. This will not only make the characters fail and succeed in their checks, but they can also succeed with hope or with fear, providing a lot more range to many different situations. And yes, you can actually quite easily import this mechanic into your D&D or Pathfinder or most other D20 based TTRPGs. You just simply need to change this into these. In the game DAGGERHEART, the mechanics of rolling your checks seem to be as follows. 1. You have a target number. 2. You make a roll and add your modifiers. Sounds very familiar so far. In DAGGERHEART, the rolls are made with using two different looking D12s. One represents hope and positive outcomes, and the other one represents fear. When you make your roll, you just roll these two dice, add them together, that's your score. If the hope dice was bigger, then you succeed with hope, and if the fear dice was bigger, you succeed with fear. And if you didn't score enough, it's a fail. Simple enough, and this will add a lot of variation to many different roles. It was really neat trick to take all that narrative mechanic juice from Powered by the Apocalypse systems and pump it into heroic fantasy system. So how can we take this sweet narrative mechanic nectar and add it into our D20 based systems like D&D and Pathfinder? In order for us to emulate the DAGGERHEART's dice resolution, we need a second die for our rolls, because it's quite difficult to get many results from one die, but we also need to keep ourselves within the range of possible outcomes. There is 20 sides on a D20, so 20 outcomes. Math time. So if we have 20, what we would get if we would divide that 20 into two equal big scores? That's right, we got two 10s. So let's name these. So we have the bad one, let's call it a dread die. And then we have the good one. Let's name it valor die. Rolling two 10-sided die and adding them together gives us almost the same amount of possibilities than rolling a d20, while also giving us the two different scores. Psst. Psst.
Hello?
The probabilities are different now.
The what?
It's a bell curve. Two dice. It's a bell curve. The probabilities, they don't match.
Oh, I will comment about that at the end of the video. Okay. Okay, bye.
So now we can make our d20 rolls with our narrative dice. And now we can succeed with valor or succeed with dread. And just like that, you can play your d20 games like DAGGERHEART. You're welcome. Psst. Psst. Yeah, I know. Okay, let's talk about advantage and disadvantage. Advantage. Really simple. You just add one extra d10. But when you roll with advantage, you add extra valor dice. And then you roll the 3 die and pick the 2 best results. So not only you have a better chance at succeeding, but you have a better chance succeeding with valor. And disadvantage? Yes, it is exactly what you're thinking. You're so clever. I'm proud of you. Indeed, in disadvantage, you roll 3 dice, but you add a dread die. And you roll all 3 dice and pick the 2 lowest scores. Meaning if you are to succeed in this roll, it's most probably gonna be with the cost. There we go. That's almost all the kinks we needed to iron out. The only thing left are the crits. Have you been taking notes? No? Well, that's fine. I actually made this system as an add-on already, and you can find itch.io link down below. And you can have it with the low price of liking the video and subscribing to the channel. No, it's actually pay what you want, so you can get it for free if you wish. In that add-on, I also have rules for D20 roll under systems as well. I have used it with the new RPG from Relic, Dragonbane. Really good RPG. Crits. Within my rules, there are 2 ways to handle crits. I will tell you tomorrow, streamlined one. When you roll d10s, whether there are 2 or 3, when one of those dice is a value of 10, the other one has a value of 1, then it's a crit. And the die which result is the 10 determines the nature of the crit. So yes, if the 10 is with valor dice, then it's a critical success. Yes, right again. And if the 10 is with dread die, critical would be critical fail. There you go. And now you know how to change your D20 games to be more dynamic with the narrative die resolution system. You're welcome. This is a good point to jump out of the video and go implement this mechanic to your games. Next, we will go into examples and designer notes and comments about the system. But first, let's say all the people in a hurry, bye! Bye! Bye bye! Thank you for watching the video. Bye! Bye bye! Okay, they are gone. Whew. Thank God. It started to be a little bit too crowded in here. Here, let me make this place a little bit more comfy for us. Perfect. Okay. Now when we have the different narrative outcomes in our checks, what does that actually mean? How can we use that in gameplay? Let's take a basic example. We have Bob. Bob is a rogue. As a rogue, Bob is really good at picking locks. So Bob sees locked door, and the GM will ask Bob to make a lock picking check. So now we can have 3 outcomes that can come from this. First one, Bob succeeds with valor and everything goes as intended. Simple enough. Second option is that Bob would succeed with dread. This could possibly mean that Bob succeeds in opening the door, but the door is so old, the mechanism of the door is really rusted, and when Bob opens the door, it will create this very loud thunk sound that Bob could not expect. So that might have some possible precautions in the future. But nonetheless, Bob succeeded in the task. And the third option, I would like to call it an obstacle rather than fail. Don't get me wrong, I think failure is a great tool. It is a great tool to sometimes change the pace of the game. And it is also a really good point for PCs to have this kind of internal inspection after a failure, and it's really good place to tone down the pacing of the adventure and maybe change its direction. So failure is really important tool in tabletop role-playing games. But when failure happens like quite often or quite many times, it can become really tedious just to hit a wall all of the time and try to think of something else. It kills the flow of the game. So rather than just Bob failing and the door doesn't open, Bob is picking the lock. But the lock was trapped. And now, when Bob is picking the lock, Bob accidentally pushes a pressure trigger inside the lock. Bob notices this a little bit too late, and the trigger is already like pressed down. So now, if Bob would release the trigger, the trap would also activate. Now Bob is stuck with the lockpicking tools in front of the door, and Bob needs to keep still or the trap will trigger. GM has a possibility to introduce a different obstacle, a new challenge. So rather than seeing like character failure as a wall that players have to like go around. It can be a possibility or a moment for GM to introduce new enemies, new challenges, new plot points even, and that will really quickly keep the game going, and the player doesn't have to focus on the fact that they rolled poorly. Alright, the probabilities. It is true that when we have 2 dice, it will create a bell curve, meaning that we are more probable to get all the results between from 2 to 20, which we can get from 2d10, rather than getting like 2 1s or 2 10s, where d20 it is equal chance to get every number of the dice. Yes, this means that characters will succeed more often, but dread die and valor die are not affected. They have always the equal probability to become bigger and lower. You have equal chance to succeed with valor and succeed with dread, so there are still complications possible to happen. Then how about ties? When you roll the dice and you get the same numbers, meaning that both die are equal amount. This could be easily flavored depending on campaigns like theme. If it's more like a horror dark campaign, then dread die could be bigger, and even with the equals, the dread always wins. Or it could be really heroic campaign and the valor always takes over the dread if they are equal. Rolling doubles could also mean a possible random event. So yeah, it's really simple and easy to play with the doubles as well. There you go. I think that's all I have for you now. Thank you for staying here with me a little longer. It was really nice to have this little chat, just the two of us. I know this would be the moment where I ask you to like and subscribe, but you know what's best for us. You know what to do already. Get home safely, okay? Safe travels. See you next time. Bye.